Welcome to Fantasy Formula One Podcast. I'm Paul. That is Ben. Thank you for joining the conversation. It is a conversation we would be having anyway. If you want to join, feel free to hit us up on the social medias, Fantasy Formula One Podcast, or email us at info@fantasyformula1podcast.com. This is the second episode for this week. Last episode, we talked a lot about the happenings and what went on as far as just the cars and the actual race event itself. And now we're going to be touching on what that means for the Fantasy Formula One world.
You know, and one thing that we did not mention in the last episode that applies here as well, this is one of the rare races where we had no DNFs.
That's true. So very important, and especially with how much we harp on DNFs.
Oh yeah, no, I was paranoid about that. Again, this is my first week in Fantasy Formula One.
Oh yeah,
going, how many of my drivers are going to get me negative 20? So the fact that was zero, I'm already ahead of the game. You know, if you set a low standard, you're very rarely disappointed.
Well, so. and actually doing some quick math. So Ferrari and again, so I'm just going to add it to be the fourth point of the top three takeaways.
Oh sure.
FERDNF. Okay, and I'll remember that when we get there. So we're going to go through, and then I'll hit that up in a second. So we're going to go through the big three takeaways for Fantasy Formula One from this weekend, and then we're going to be going over your teams.
Yeah.
Big three takeaways is Red Bull is still dominant.
A little bit.
Rinse and repeat. Max Verstappen was 20, 30 seconds ahead of everybody else. Second place was his teammate. So it leads credence to the idea that if you want to do well, if you want to win, you have to have Red Bull on your team. Right. However, they priced out Sergio Perez. Otherwise, if you get Sergio Perez and Max Verstappen and the Red Bull constructor on your team, you'd be dominant. It would matter how you played with the
everything beyond that.
Beyond that. But they price it out so you can't have all three of them on the same team. So then now it's like, okay, do you have Max or do you have Perez, and do you have the Red Bull, and who else do you have?
Right.
So we'll get into all that in a second. This year, constructors, because of how they've handled the price, constructors are much, much, much more important this year than last year.
Okay.
Last year, you had Mercedes that was off the pace completely. Last year, you had Ferrari that DNF'd a quarter of their races, right? So that knocked both of them down. So you had to have Red Bull as your constructor. You can play around with whatever your second constructor was, like you could play around with whoever else you had on your team.
Sure.
Not so much this year. This year, Red Bull put up 89 points the first game as a constructor. Ferrari put up 73, which means that now if you can have Red Bull and Ferrari on your team, well, now it's going to be to the moon with points, but then you're limited as to who you can have for drivers.
Okay.
And there's not enough points. I've been trying all weekend, all Sunday and all Monday. I've been trying to figure out how to get Max Verstappen, Red Bull constructor, and Ferrari all on the same team, and you can't do it. You can do it with Perez, but you can't do it with Max Verstappen.
Gotcha.
So then you're in a world now where you don't have Max Verstappen on your F1 team, and that's hard for me to swallow. So, but also with constructors, Ferrari, like I said, had 73. Mercedes had 34 because George Russell lost so many positions.
Oh, that's right.
And Lewis Hamilton didn't improve.
No.
So Lewis Hamilton walked away with 12 points. So there you are, the third heavy price or fourth heaviest priced driver in F1 got you 12 points.
Yeah, that initial points per million is not. It's not a good start.
It's not. So, and I know they're talking about there's still a big season, right? There's still 23 races left. That's not including the six sprint races, but. And we're talking about, and this is a full circle, bringing it back to the DNF. So that was the third issue was, Ferrari versus Mercedes.
Yep.
I think that dynamic is going to decide who wins and who doesn't. Because if you get Red Bull, and if you had Red Bull, actually I have it right here. Sorry, I was punching around to try and figure out what the best team for this year would have been. And if you had by my rough math, if you had Carlos Sainz as your 2X DNF driver, Kevin Magnussen, Logan Sargent, Nico Hülkenberg, and Zhou Guanyu, then you would have had enough points to get both Red Bull Racing and Ferrari. And assuming that you had your DRS on Carlos Sainz, you'd have had 256 points.
No way.
Yeah. Because Ferrari and Red Bull both had both drivers get to Q3 and finish in the top 6.
Oh, yeah.
And so everybody else, like the RB, the team that I'm like holding on to, they only had like 7 points.
Right.
Because they were both out in Q1. Because as soon as you get points for the top 10 drivers, you have 2 Red Bull, you have 2 Ferrari, you have 2 Mercedes, you have 2 McLaren. So now you're just fighting over those last 2 positions, and Aston Martin's still here, So anyway, so that's point 3. And then, but this is the big thing, being the DNFs. At one point in the race, Ferrari and Ferrari were wheel to wheel, and they interlocked their tires at one point.
Right.
Which means if any car, while they're going 200 kilometers an hour, if any car had hit the gas too much or backed off too much, both would have crashed.
Right.
Which means instead of finishing with all these points, Ferrari would have gone from having a positive 73 points at the end to having in the neighborhood of a negative 20 to a negative 40 for the constructor.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And that one DNF would have placed him from us scratching our heads going, oh my gosh, how do we get them on our team, to can you believe Ferrari this year? And all of that comes down to a little bit of a gas pedal, a little bit of a steering wheel thing. So right now, when we're looking at Mercedes versus Ferrari, Ferrari was this close to being a disaster, but they weren't, so they're fine.
Oh yeah,
and Mercedes.
And then, you throw in the fact that they also had brake issues during.
Yeah,
it's a small miracle that they made the podium and did as well as they did.
So right now, for me, it's you need Red Bull on your team, but the whole, since you can't have Perez and Max, it's still a little bit. I'm going to be doing some shifting around.
Sure.
So I'm trying to figure out how to get Red Bull and Ferrari, assuming that goes forward. But again, it's the big thing about these three big takeaways is we're only one race down of 24.
Sure.
So it could be anything. So I'm trying to slow my roll. I'm not ousting RB.
I think you're doing great. Like, last week we were talking though about overanalyzing practice. This was an actual race. We can pick apart.
We can pick apart.
You're doing just fine.
Mercedes wasn't impressive.
No,
they were not. Ferrari was great. Red Bull was great. McLaren, I don't think McLaren's worth the money for them, because they had Lando Norris be what is the second highest play. He had 23. He was worth 23 million.
Yeah,
and he brought in the teens of
moved
points.
Up a couple spots, but they and Mercedes were
exactly.
They take the spread between 5th and 8th place. So I mean, you got points, but
at what cost? So
exactly
the big takeaways: Red Bull and Ferrari are the people to look at now. Carlos Sainz got in his 30s, and both of those guys got in the 30s. Max Verstappen got 45 points, but also Max Verstappen isn't going to be getting necessarily more than 45 points. You get 10 for getting qualifying P1, and you get 35 or so for winning the race. So there's your 45.
Right. So that led me to another question while you were talking there, because you have Max who beat everyone else by 20 plus seconds.
Yeah.
Super impressive. Legacy defining stuff. But from a fantasy perspective, does that gap between P1, P2 make any kind of point difference? Aside from, I don't know if he had the best lap time or not.
I think
he'd have to in order to get that far ahead of anybody.
Yeah.
So beyond that, though, is there any other mechanical or is there any other mechanic in place point wise where that kind of gap would differentiate you?
Nope. Okay. Whether you finish first, whether you get first by 6 minutes, you get first by a split second.
It's like a first draft of a Vin Diesel line, right?
Exactly. It is. Now I need to go start.
Doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile.
Doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile. Winning is winning,
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the big takeaways from it. I'm going to revamp some of one of my teams is like a Red Bull free team. I'm trying to figure out how to get as many points as I can without using anything from Red Bull.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And so that is going to be a Mercedes Ferrari with a heavy Ferrari in there, and Haas is looking good too.
Gotcha.
But all right, but that was enough for that. We're going to go start talking about your team.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So Team 1 had 161 points. Team 2 is 206. 206 was about the best. So you'll look online. So if you look at the Global League, let me go to here. So, nope, wrong tab. Already goofing it up. So we're going to go up here to Leagues, and I'm going to open it in a new tab. If you go to the Global League, and this shows you how many total teams are playing, so 1.7 million.
Yep.
Right? But let's look at who the leader is. Let's see your league. Where's the leaderboard? They have a leaderboard, don't they? Yeah, here they go. The leaderboard. The leader has 321 points.
Oh, geez.
But don't OGs it. Because let's look and see what their team was. They already used their 3X.
Oh,
and they moved their 2X to Carlos Sainz.
Gotcha.
All right. And so they had Aston Martin, which again, fine. They only got 20 points, but the reason why they did so they used the exact
they 3X
they 3X and they were able to double X him. So Carlos Sainz got him an extra 32 points. Max Verstappen got him an extra 45 points.
But he's not going to have numbers like that again.
No, they never will because he used that 3X he's done. He can't use that anymore.
I mean, it wasn't a bad time to use it.
No,
you know,
it was good. Like, he used it well. I personally am going to be using my 3X for there's certain teams that are really good at certain tracks, and when you go to Ferrari's home track, using your 3X and your 2X for they're probably going to win that.
Okay, this is a really interesting discussion point because at first I was going, oh man, way too hasty, just using that, week one. But week one, I think you have the best analysis, based on what you had seen the previous season. So again, Max has been good for years and years and years.
Yeah.
In all likelihood, he's going to do well again, especially given the consistency of Red Bull's vehicles. It's kind of a smart move to kind of go, this is my best chance. No one knows anything on any given race day.
Yeah.
But this is my best chance to see consistent performance from him.
I would say we say it's smart because the gamble worked.
Fair.
So it was high risk, high reward.
So how about this though? Week one has been completed.
Mm-hmm.
We've established Red Bull is still pretty good.
Yeah.
If you haven't used your 3X, maybe next week is the week to use it on Max. Because
I personally, you absolutely can. You're everything right in what you just said. I'm holding off on using it until after the 7th race.
Okay.
I want to wait until Red Bull, if Red Bull starts getting closer to the pack as the weeks go.
Yeah.
Well, then you might want to be careful because there are certain tracks that favor, because remember, we don't care. We just want to make sure whoever uses a 3X, because when you use a 3X, you also now can replace your 2X.
Sure.
And you want to do it when you have drivers that are both going to be pretty dominant. This was a pretty huge gamble for this race because Ferrari could barely get out of first gear last year.
Right.
They had a bunch of mechanical issues. They had a quarter of the races or so they DNF'd. And Max Verstappen was a totally new concept that Mercedes had abandoned. So this is definitely a high risk, high reward. Fine. But as far as, hey, this works, let's jump onto it for next race. You absolutely could. I don't think it'd be bad.
I think the scary thing about week one is you have, beyond practice though, you have sometimes massive changes that have happened, from an engineering standpoint to these cars.
Yeah.
So it could be there's a huge surprise or a huge failure that it has been untested.
I'm saving my 3X until the second half of the season.
Okay.
Because I want to see how the cars break out. I want them to work out all the kinks. I want to make sure we know, okay, this guy sustains superior performance. This guy isn't, whatever.
Sure. And
then be like, all right, Max Verstappen playing at a track you should do really well at. I will go ahead and adjust around so I have a solid, really strong second driver for that race.
Okay.
Somebody to put the 2X to, give Max a 3X when you know what's going to happen. Because last year, I was like, I'm just going to use the 3X for here and have everybody get a whole bunch of points. No, that's good. But as soon as it wasn't their best race, or as soon as there's a lot more going into it. So you're not wrong for saying it. I'm going to wait and kind of see how it all shakes out.
Sure.
So that way, when I do use my 3X, my 2X can go somewhere really, really good.
Okay.
It worked out well for him, but as soon as Carlos Sainz hadn't finished third, he had finished fourth, that would have been substantially less. Or as soon as the brake failure had gone too much, they both put themselves in a wall, then that 72 would have gone to negative 40 or negative 20. And then it wouldn't be a genius move at all.
Okay. No, I'm with you. So one more question on the 3X dynamic here.
Sure.
We harp on every week that there's just a myriad of variables to account for whenever you're making almost any kind of decision on this here. So and most of those have to do with driver and constructor makeup and performance. How much weight do you put on the individual race course of the week? Because every course is wildly different.
Yeah.
Weather matters, straightaways matter, number of turns matter, level of driver familiarity with those courses matter. And then I'm sure there, I don't know, but I'm sure there are small variations within those courses from year to year as well. How much do you look at the specific course being raced as an impact maker for your decision to maybe use your 3X or switch out some drivers?
More this year than last year. It should be more and more because so there's low downforce tracks and high downforce tracks, and then there's the whole range in between.
Yeah, and
altitude and temperature matter a whole lot. So we've all been driving over the mountains before at some point, right?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there, and even though it's not too steep of a grade, your engine's just trying. Why? Because you're thousands of feet above. There's less air in the molecules of air further apart, so it's your engine's burning hotter, things like this. And some drivers have their home tracks where they've been going to their whole life, and the fans are right there. And so they might try and be a little more aggressive.
Oh, sure. Everyone wants to win for the home crowd.
But the big thing is the low downforce versus high downforce. I'm going to make a note so we can talk about this. Low.
And this could be a whole separate episode. I'm sorry. This just came up and was interesting to me.
I'm gonna we'll talk about it more next weekend. A lot of the tracks is just right there in the middle, right? You're right there in the middle, so it might not matter too much. But for altitude wise and temperature wise, but for specifically like in Singapore, it was the humidity is so thick you could cut it with a knife.
Sure.
And so now the engines are ingesting water along with air more than they would be somewhere where they're operating at sea level, or in the desert, like more in Bahrain, right? But also you have the low downforce versus high downforce tracks. And what that's measured in is straightaways versus turns.
Okay.
Because unlike when you and I drive cars, the F1 cars, the more downforce they have, the faster and the more nimble they are. Where with us, if we go to enter a turn, we want to slow down so our tires don't skid. They want to be as fast as they can, so they're getting more downforce on the car so they can make the turn go faster.
Yeah.
But yet, when you get into straightaways, and this is why we have DRS, as soon as you're having a big, nice big long straightaway, you don't want all of that downforce because it's making you sticky, but you're losing speed for that downforce. You're trading speed for downforce, which is why you have the DRS button. You push the button, the fins go up. Now you don't have all that. You're losing downforce, but now you can go faster.
Got it.
So some tracks are just more speed, less turns, more straightaway, less turns, and that would really give itself to a low downforce car. You'll hear people talk about, or if it's smaller track with a lot of turns, then that would be better for a higher downforce car because you can be in those turns faster.
Gotcha. Okay.
But as soon as you're a low downforce track, I mean, it's just a lot of straightaways, then the cars will be tuned, so they have to take the turns a little slower, but they can be faster in the straightaways. Where if there's less straightaways, you'll be slower in the straightaway. You'll tune so you're slower on the straightaways, but faster in the turns.
Gotcha.
And it also comes down to driver preference.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I think at the lower end of the driver spectrum there, you would want when you're getting to that kind of bottom of the barrel budget driver.
Yeah,
you're gonna want races that there's the potential the potential to pass somebody else, just because the likelihood of your driver even being in the points is so low to begin with. You want overtake opportunities, and for
example, I think it's Monaco. Monaco is a very narrow track.
Oh yeah, no, super tight.
So I would strongly advise against anybody putting your because then as soon as you use a chip where you can there's no limit, right? Or use your 3X. As soon as Max Verstappen has to go, let's say everybody's really bunched together, Max Verstappen has to go into a pit. He comes out and he's P7. He might not be able to pass just because it's so often single file through those streets.
Yeah.
He might not be able to pass, so he can't get those points. So it's an increased gamble to use your 3X on Max Verstappen in that point, where as soon as you're in some place like maybe Bahrain, say, or someplace that's a nice wide open speedway, there's plenty of room for him to get around and use all that Red Bull performance.
Sure.
Where if something goes south in a smaller track, he might not be able to pass, but wider track he could.
Right.
And I am not up on as much as I am about which cars are low downforce or which cars are high downforce or whatever. But as the weeks progress, they change and I want to say it was with Singapore as well, but I think it was Haas. They put a whole basically new fiberglass body on the car that had more air holes or more vents to keep the car cooler.
Okay.
Than if they're at a higher speed track where they can go and they can get a nice big straightaway and it's nice cool temperatures. Well, then you'd want to put a different body on that covers up a lot of those vents so you can keep some of that heat.
Gotcha.
And so does that answer your question? It's kind of a long-winded.
Oh no, yeah, no. It was an essay question.
Okay,
you nailed it. It was good.
All right, so that's the team that's leading. So again, big takeaway from this: they use their 3X and their 2X. Let's look back at all these people right? And there's 3X and 2X. So all these people that are sitting here at 214, 213, they all use their 3X and their 2X already.
Gotcha.
So don't worry about it. So now back to yours. All right.
So back to my team.
So 206 is pretty good. I had 207, I think, or 209. No, Bill Buxton, he had, I think, 209. So,
Gotcha.
And we can look at them.
Let's look at my
Your team race.
builds
All right, so this is still the loadouts you had before, right? This is
correct.
the same lineup.
So, yeah, team one,
talk us through
the
it.
newbie alpha. Part of me was a little bit stubborn. I wanted to see if I could build a decent team without Max Verstappen on it, but still with Red Bull Racing.
Okay.
So I went with two decent constructors. One being the kind of the premier right now, and then Aston Martin being a little bit more middle of the pack. That still left me enough money to have some solid drivers, and then you could see where my money dwindled out.
Yeah.
So that's the team that netted me about 160 points, or in the 160s.
Mm-hmm.
Team 2 is Red Bull Dragon Fruit. That one I went Red Bull all the way as much as I could. So Red Bull Racing, and then RB Racing, and then or I guess RB, and then this is the one where I have Max Verstappen. I 2x'd him, and then but you can see the rest of my drivers are less prestigious.
Yeah.
But this is still the team that got me my 206.
Gotcha. So when it comes to the Stathams, so let's look back at races completed. So your Statham's got you 126.
Right. This was, I don't care about the constructors. I'm going to get the three most expensive drivers that I can get.
And to show that, like, if we can go into, let's see if we can do this. You can get your three most expensive drivers. Lando Norris got you 16 points, right? Lewis Hamilton got you 12.
Right.
And so that didn't work. As soon as, but here's the killer part. You got 126. Let's assume that even if both of those guys got you an additional 20 points, so Lando Norris got you 36 points and Lewis Hamilton got you 32 points.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be a total 40 more. You're still at 120, 66.
Right.
You're still well off the pace from your other team.
And again, this is the no DNF. I mean, Williams, we got, again, our countryman, Logan Sargent.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Who finished.
He finished. He got 3 points.
Had he not, that's a negative 20, even though I don't have that guy.
Exactly.
And
and Red Bull didn't make it into Q. They made it into Q2. They didn't make it into Q3.
Correct.
They didn't make it into the top 10. And so they never made it into the top 10, and we can talk about that. But then they got 7 points.
Yeah, those are just overtake points, and that's all they brought to the table.
So if you had gone, and so when you look at, let's go back to your.
So this leads back to your
So
your top takeaway.
Here's your
quality constructors.
Quality
are
constructors
going to make
this
or break
year.
you.
Yep, this year I really feel that's it. And the reason why is because Ferrari is right up there with Red Bull as of right now. When Mercedes starts getting up there, getting the 70, 80, 90 constructor points, then I'll add them to this list. But right now they're only pulling like in the 30s or 40s, which isn't bad.
Sure.
But they're more expensive than Ferrari. So based on our sample size of one, Ferrari and Red Bull are the constructors to get. Because as soon as you have call it a 90 and an 80, or call it a 90 and a 70, that's 160 points based off those two constructors. And then everyone else you can work with it. But yeah, so and then this is for your second team that got you the 206 points.
Correct.
You got your 206 because of Max Verstappen.
Oh yeah. I mean, my other drivers,
and me too. Like absolutely.
Yeah.
So Lance Stroll, again, man, he 10 points, but he cost $10 million, but only got you 8 points.
Right.
And the way we have to be thinking about this going forward is that in your top 10, you have Red Bull, you have Mercedes, you have Ferrari, and you have McLaren. 2, 4, 6, 8. There's only 2 spots left in the top 10 where all the points are. There's only 2 seats left in the top 10 that aren't one of your big 4 constructors.
Sure.
So you need to have the big 4 constructors on your team, otherwise you're not going to do it.
Yep. No, absolutely.
And that's not you, but like for me too, because I did a very similar loadout to this one, probably identical. I didn't have Lance Stroll, I didn't have Kevin Magnussen, I didn't have Albon. I had like Yuki Tsunoda, Zhou Guanyu, and I forget who else. But it was still ended up being kind of the same thing, right? Like with this Red Bull now is the big RB, I should say, is the big question mark. Because as soon as they start putting up 20, 30, 40 points, then they're the drivers, they're the team to have. But if there's only 2 points, if there's only 2 empty seats in the bottom of the top 10, then you really need to kind of abandon the non-top 10 teams and go with getting the 2 big constructors, which limit you on points, which all that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so let's go to your, let's go team by team with what you had here. Aston Martin, a lot of people went with Aston Martin just because it was however much they cost this week, but they still got you 20 points.
Sure,
but it's still not where still not where we need to be, right?
Yeah. Oh, so here's a question.
Yeah.
Where do we need to be? What would be a takeaway score that you feel, you know what, there's room for improvement, but I'm happy about this. I'm not going to kick the dog as I, walk down the street.
For me, 200 points. If you're over 200.
I have a dog. I don't kick my dog.
We don't kick our dogs down the street. I promise.
Terrible, terrible saying. That's all.
Yeah. Honestly, you want to be in the 200-point land.
Okay.
Because last year, and it'll be different. Every year's different. Last year, the winner had 6,900 whatever points.
Okay.
All right.
Over 23.
Over 22 races, actually. One of them didn't go.
Okay.
Over 22 races. And so I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, you're off the pace, or, oh, this is horrible. But you have to look at how many points was left on the field. The very, very end, how much risk you would take to get those points.
Gotcha.
After the race, the very, very top team you could have had was 256 points. But in order to do that, you had to not have Max Verstappen. And you had to take the cheap Ferrari driver and both the Ferrari and the Red Bull constructors.
Right.
And with the way if you could get Perez on the team again, with have it be all three Red Bull, it'd be off to the moon, and then doing some micro for the other drivers. If you're finishing the season between 150 and 200, that's fine. But it also depends on how far you want on. I want to win. I want to be in the top 1%. Is my personal goal. As soon as you just want to win your league, well then 150, 200. In that neck of the woods is fine. Me personally, I want to be over 200.
No, it's the relative value of your sandbox versus the world. So
exactly.
What are you trying to accomplish?
Because as soon as, and I'm not going to try and do public math, but let me whip out my. No. But if we have 24 races times 24, and that'll give you 4,800 points, right? If it's sustained, and that is not including the races where you get the bonuses for
driver of the day,
fastest lap, stuff like
pit,
that,
all that, okay.
Right? But also as soon as you're like, well, I need to be at 200, just because you're at 206, you're at 170, you got to check and see which drivers did and how well it all worked out. So like Yuki Tsunoda, he's better than this. There's a bunch of drama going on between him and Daniel Ricciardo right now.
Sure.
But there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with how this worked, because look, Charles Leclerc got only 1 point off of Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
So that's fine. Over the course of, there's no right way, because at any given race, anybody can DNF.
But then when you look between, I have Alonso and Aston Martin, and between the two of them, I still got less than just having Charles Leclerc. Is it? Did they say Charles?
They should say Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc. I call him Charles.
Okay, I'm just going to say Leclerc.
Yeah, Leclerc.
So he alone, without even having the Ferrari constructor, got me more points than the constructor and the racer doubled up.
Yep.
So
and Charles Leclerc, without any DNFs, got you more points than the rest of your lineup combined.
Yep. So that tells me again, way overreading into it. Smart move for this team might be to free up some capital by letting go of Alonso, because he's pricey.
So let's poke around with it. Can I? Is that okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All right, I won't hit save, but let's talk about this.
So Alonso cost me $16 million.
Alonso cost you $16 million. So now, and then we're going to get into the whole. You can only move two people around per.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that sucks.
Unless you want to take the hit.
No, I don't want to take.
But there is a token you can play that lets you free reset. But let's look.
I'm not going to do that yet. It's week one.
So we're going to go about Yuki Tsunoda, Nico Hülkenberg, and Daniel Ricciardo. I still baby RB, right?
Yeah.
With Yuki and Daniel, they're just trying to get their feet going.
Sure.
Right? They're fine drivers. Yuki just got passed, and as soon as he would have had 0 if it wasn't for the team orders.
Yeah.
So for anybody who didn't watch the race, Yuki Tsunoda is within DRS of whoever's in front of him, but Daniel Ricciardo has soft tires. Yuki had mediums or hards or whatever.
Right.
And team orders were for them to switch so that Daniel Ricciardo could try and pass the guy ahead of him. Yuki dragged his feet. Yuki didn't want to, which we talked about off camera. I agree with. No one wants to let somebody pass him. So Yuki let him pass him, and Daniel Ricciardo couldn't pass the other guy, and so it didn't work. But Yuki Tsunoda would have had 0 points overall. But now he has -1 because he let his team orders pass him.
Yeah.
Right. So keeping it within just the two shifts here, what I would do is you get rid of him,
And let me see too, real quick. How much is Oscar Piastri right now?
Oscar Piastri.
I mean, he was well in the points. He's not Lando Norris, so he's going to be a little cheap.
I think he actually.
You skipped him already. You passed him.
Oh, did I?
Scrolling up.
No, because I reset the value. I reset the.
Oh, okay.
So now I'm organizing.
Oh, I see.
By value. So now it's going down to Pierre Gasly.
No, that's what I was saying. Oscar Piastri with McLaren.
Was he at top? Did
we passed him. Go up. Right.
Oh,
there.
well, I'm sorry. I was looking for So
Okay.
he's 19-1.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? So shoot. Okay.
So
I thought he'd be cheaper. So that's not great.
He actually his value went up.
But he only got
exactly.
Oh,
So if you look at this little blue thing, all the drivers went up except for Red Bull. Went down a little bit. Zhou Yu went up 5.5. He went up $500,000 after just getting 11 points.
So it's okay. So when their value goes down, I'm looking at my team on the left hand side of the screen. Does that go back into my budget?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
it's like stocks; they're worth less.
Okay. So if I sold Daniel and rebought him,
you would sell him for 8.9, buy him back for 8.9. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you don't sell him at 9 like he was and buy him back at 8.9. No.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So for this build, what I'm just looking at it here, you have Charles Leclerc, right? Which we're trying to keep it just with the two person move.
Yeah.
Like Esteban Ocon has 7 points, Pierre Gasly has 6. And this is where it's going to get kind of. So let's go with. I mean, Zhou Yu. I'm feeling Zhou Yu.
I mean, yeah,
just because he had good points, right? But now you're leaving 3.5 on the table, which is why if you're willing to go the negative 10 points, I'm not saying do it. I'm not going to click save after this.
Oh, good.
Right? You get Carlos Sainz, and now you're at 11, and now you can get Lance Stroll.
But am I not? Okay, I see what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? And he got 8 points, which is not the best points per million. Like you can get him for 7. You can get Zhou Yu maybe.
But again, that's based on 1 week.
On 1 week alone performance. And Lance Stroll, in the end, he was. Let's see, how did he do? Lance Stroll, he got 8 points, right? So he finished in the top 10. He gained 2 positions. He overtook. He got 5 points for overtaking, 2 positions gained, qualified 12th, finished 10th.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it's pretty solid, bottom of the top 10 driver.
Yeah.
And now you're looking, and then if you do this, let me go to, now just in, if you add this, so I put 73 plus 89, you'd have had 150 whatever points, plus with
just
Carlos,
those two, yeah.
With Carlos Sainz, you'd have had another 72.
Wow. Yeah.
See?
Yep.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, I'm not going to pull the trigger on it and save it right now, but this is, I mean, this
this is good.
If you're looking,
let's
you want to hit save?
Yeah, let's lock it in.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and continue. And who do you want to DRS? We'll go Carlos Sainz.
Yeah.
If I like, especially if Sainz continues to beat out Leclerc, then keep him in.
Oh, for sure. And it's what we talked about a couple weeks back. It's the Sainz and Leclerc dynamic. What?
I goofed that up. So additional transfers, -1. Oh, hang on. Right.
Oh, what else?
Cancel.
What else did we do?
I must have here. We're going to do this. And here's what I always suggest.
Cancel out.
Go back. Oh, I changed Leclerc for Sainz. That's what I did.
Isn't that still just 2 transfers though?
No,
That's
because I changed Alonso and I changed
to Ferrari.
So we're gonna get rid of that, and we're gonna get rid of Fernando. We're gonna give you the Ferrari constructor.
Okay, so this is gonna be team for how much money do I only have 10 left?
You have 10 million left.
Oh, that's not great. Okay.
No, but it can get you Zhou Yu.
Okay, and so that'll be my knee jerk reaction. Let's go to Zhou Yu and hope that he has another week like he had.
And and here let's look at Zhou Yu and how he did. Where did these 11 points come from? So he qualified 17th, placed 11th.
Okay,
that's good.
Yeah,
he passed a lot of people.
That's half his points.
That's
right there.
His points. So that is his points. 6 positions up, and the fact that he actually passed people on merit.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay, cool.
And
cool.
and that's good. I don't know what was all going on and how he passed those, but that's good. Alex Albon, so he had 0 points and he went down a little bit. So that's a little bit of a bigger name. Logan Sargent, like I have him on one of my teams, but I mean, and Pierre Gasly, he got 6 points with 7.7. So
gotcha.
So he got less points overall, but Pierre Gasly that's Alpine. No, it's the A. I need to get better at my initial. Let me look over here. Yeah, Alpine. So they had
because then it's Ocon as well.
Yeah, they had issues, and they had something go wrong, and they had to pit like early on, and they basically that was Bottas, but they had an issue before, and they basically said that this race was like an extended practice session for them.
Oh,
they're
that's
gonna
right.
do their
I
best.
saw that.
Yeah, they're going to do their best, and they sorted some stuff out.
Okay,
so
let's go Zogan Yu.
Zogan Yu. Okay, let's go back to drivers and get Zogan Yu.
Okay, and
right. And then
because I feel like it could be a little bit of a knee jerk. I'm glad Sainz had he got P3, but it was almost Leclerc.
It was almost Leclerc. So having the big thing, having the constructors, because right here you're looking at 160 points just in your constructors.
Absolutely.
And from there on out, so long as nobody crashes,
Sure.
So there's the knee jerk for that. We will 0 points. You have a remaining cost cap of 3.5, which is a little much, but right now this is good for this week, and the next week, assuming this hangs out, you can reorganize your middle of the team people, and spend up that money. So
sounds good.
That change.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so there's new change with this RB. The only thing I would like,
it's just if I could, what I'd have to do is it'd be about letting go of RB to get a beefier constructor.
But the only you can't get any beefier than Aston Martin because there's not enough money there.
But I mean, they have a better chance of getting consistently in the points.
I mean, they do. Like this RB is just a little bit of a high risk, high reward with it, right?
I'm also I was gonna have to drop somebody of
at
least one driver of value in order to afford Aston Martin.
So if you want to do that, we'll go ahead and so see.
I think we got to go back unless we put one of those drivers back in.
We can put one of them back in. So Aston Martin, there's a huge like 5 million jump between Aston Martin and Ferrari.
Yeah,
but let's try getting Ferrari in.
All right,
now because that's what it's looking.
We can't do that. I got 7 million left for 2 drivers.
Yeah, so it's not going to work. So let's see.
I don't. You know what? I don't think I'm going to be able to do that with Aston Martin either. Let's get rid of Ferrari, throw Aston Martin in there. It's still going to be. It's going to be
a little much because you have. And then we can try add a driver. Let's go.
It's going to be the bottom 2 drivers, but still.
Oh, come on! I goofed that all up. And let's go back to there. Value bottom 2. Oh, wrong way. Volume 2.
So Logan, our countryman.
Oh, boom! Yeah, you can.
Okay.
So you can actually.
I can actually get Magnussen.
You can actually get Mag. Yeah, I mean Bottas. Like I don't know.
Uh-oh.
Like
I lost another.
Oh, maybe that's why it worked.
Oh, because I already had him. Oh,
did you? Oh, okay.
I already had Magnussen.
So let's go ahead and add.
I don't know.
Sargent and add.
Let's go back real quick.
Yeah, let's go back.
It's going to flag us for.
Oh.
Scroll up.
Do that back.
We want.
There we go. Now let's go back to manage team.
Yeah, I already had Magnussen. Okay.
You already had Magnussen.
So drop.
Right. So we will drop them, and
then Stroll.
I think Stroll will get you more money. But
you're right. Yeah, I got nothing with Albon. So
yeah, and Albon's with Williams, and until I just don't see Williams getting past RB overall.
You don't think so?
It's possible. I hope so.
We'll see. Yeah.
We'll see. But I also don't want to. So then.
Oh, I thought we were dropping Albon, not.
Oh, no, you're right. You're right. So
we'll put Stroll back up there.
Let's put Stroll back up here. As everyone's clicking off, they're like, "What are you guys doing? We can do this ourselves."
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
That's fine. And then there's Aston Martin, and now we're at 1.1.
Oh shoot! So I have. Dang it.
So, but let's see. So if we get rid of Stroll, now we're 13. Now we can get 2 bottom. We can get 2.
But that's going to be too. It's going to be.
It'll be. You'll lose 10 points. Yeah. So we can get Nico.
Great. So both Haas drivers
and like Logan Sargent if you want, or 6 point Alex Albon. Yeah,
I can afford him.
But actually, then that might just keep you with two changes.
Oh, that's true.
Alex was there before. Let's see.
I'm just going full Haas.
Yeah, you're good to go. If you want to try it,
let's do it.
Well, before we go, I want to try one more thing. It's probably not something we do here, right? But let's back it up, back it up. Show you this.
Okay.
So get rid of those 2.
And by those 2 years,
we're getting rid of Max Verstappen.
I don't like that, but let's
no, but then we can go Carlos Sainz and Ferrari or Mercedes. Because Carlos Sainz only got 10 or 11 points behind Max. But if you're getting with Ferrari, you're getting orders of magnitude more than RB. And this is not me putting you on the spot.
I got you.
This is the conundrum we face here. Because technically Max Verstappen, if he pulls in 45 points and there's somebody else pulling in 35 or 31, he has 15 points. But as soon as you get Ferrari as a constructor, you're pulling in 71 points where Red Bull is pulling in 7.
I got you.
But now you don't. Now you're in a world where you don't have Max Verstappen.
That's true. Let's keep it to Max.
Okay.
On the front there. Let's do the changes we had before.
Yeah.
And
so getting rid of Stroll.
And if you're yelling at me, I'm sorry. This is me doing the whole. I don't actually own anything, so I'm gonna create some chaos.
Yeah, this is what we do here.
See how it works.
And then we can have Kevin. Let me see for value. So yeah, Ricardo, Alex Albon. And you can Bottas or Magnussen. I would go.
Well, I already have Albon on the team.
Sorry, and you have Magnussen. Yeah. So yeah, you have Bottas. You can get no Cole.
Give me Bottas, just so I'm not going double Haas.
Das. Yeah, that'd be. So you go.
Das Haas.
Das Haas. And then continue. Yep, 0. This is a big thing. 0 additional for 0 points. Ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Punch it.
Yeah.
All right.
And then the Stathams need a lot of work.
The Stathams need a lot of work, which means we need to make a big move now, so you can make another big move.
So what I'm hearing is let's accept the penalty that comes with making more than 2 changes,
or go ahead and last one more race without the optimum. I would
drop Williams.
I would drop Williams just because I think Red Bull has a little bit more upward possibility,
and we're also dropping Hamilton to free up some capital.
Yeah,
so let's look at the constructors base. Because now I've got $25 million. Do we go Mercedes?
With Ferrari being cheaper based on the last race.
We
Ferrari,
go Ferrari.
But,
that's the smart thing to do. Yeah.
Well, so far, but as soon as Mercedes finishes 1-2 next week, we're going to have a big conversation because what next?
No, that's right. So let's go Ferrari for now and let's see if that was a knee jerk reaction.
And then at the very bottom, I promise I know how to work a computer. And now you're looking at Sargent, or you have to change Norris.
No, yeah, let's do it. Let's stick with Sargent.
Okay,
and maybe they'll
next
figure out how his steering wheel works this week, and he'll have a magical week.
And then next week, you can change if you want to. You can change Norris for somebody. But what do you think? Because and I'm not trying to. You could just leave it if you want to.
No. This is good. This is me just trying to process.
Yeah.
While we're recording, which is
and
doesn't make for good.
Yeah, right. They can see the smoke coming up.
Yeah. No.
With Lando Norris though, he was very dominant last year.
He was.
But now that the rest of the field caught up, and even Max Verstappen would have finished, like we said in the last podcast, what Max Verstappen qualified for in 2023, on the pole, would have only gotten him 8th this year.
Sure.
So
and that's the thing. Yeah. So Norris is still Norris. McLaren remains competitive.
Yeah.
And again, anything can happen on any race day. So let's go with this. Let's lock it in.
Continue. And so we're changing those two, which I think is right because you're getting Ferrari, which had 70 points.
Yep. So
getting rid of Hamilton, only had 12.
Correct. So the namesake isn't as Statham-y as it was before, but the point the team might actually be slightly more viable, which is what we're trying to do here from week to week. So this is great. I'm locked in with a little bit better balance, a couple stronger constructors, and we'll see what week 2 holds for us. Where are we racing in week 2? I can't remember.
Week 2, we are in Saudi Arabia, I believe. And I don't know. I haven't done too much track research. That actually could be a good little point to start putting up track researches and track profiles. And
that could be fun. Let us know what do you guys want to hear about.
I'm all about. We can give you I have a whole spreadsheet full of stats and
I'll ask random questions all day long. But if you have anything you guys want to hear, talk about or have us talk about, that'd be fine.
I think this is a much stronger build, even just because of those three. Because of your constructors, I think you'll go a lot further.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate talking through this, understanding the logic of what I should be prioritizing. This is exactly what we should be doing here.
And as soon as the Mercedes power unit goes away and Ferrari starts crashing into each other again, we'll get to figure it out again. But all right, let me make sure. I think that's all the big things we had for this week. Is there anything I'm missing?
I
As
mean,
far as-
other than the disclaimer of don't do what we just did, which is completely change all 3 teams on a Monday.
Yeah, on a Monday, be careful. Watch
Take a beat, think through your life choices,
Yeah, but
and then change as you will. But
yeah, but I will say to go to our defense, the need to have solid constructors was a big thing that we changed with
Absolutely,
you.
yeah.
And that's very, there's no one driver in the world can get more than your Ferrari and your Red Bull and your Mercedes and your McLaren constructors. Like, you need to have solid constructors.
sure.
So,
All right.
well, hey, everybody, thanks for joining. And we will see you, if not before next race, after next race.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cheers.